particularly vulnerable. Our refugee welcoming system, our immigration system, is not suited to their particular situation, and it needs to be reviewed. The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie will have another 6 minutes to answer questions once the House resumes debate on this motion. Now, statements by members.
For Mount Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On June the 8th, the Canadian Jewish Political Affairs Committee is paying tribute to my friend and former colleague on the Hampstead Town Council, Lillian Weinberg. This is incredibly well-deserved. Over the course of her life, Lillian has done just about everything: elected official, activist, philanthropist, and community leader. Elle a été présidente du Conseil de l'Union.
She was the president of the board at Concordia University, president of L'Espoir c'est la vie, board member on the Jewish General Hospital and several other organizations. Lillian was a leader in bringing together French and English-speaking Canadians and among people of different faiths. She was a source of inspiration for many people, including me.
Think of the quintessential Montrealer, Quebecer, and Canadian. Lillian comes to mind. She comes from a minority, religious and language community, yet is respected and viewed as a leader by all. I ask all of my colleagues to join with me in paying tribute to her. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning, many MPs and staff took part in the 6th Annual Parliamentary Outdoor Caucus Day at the Range. This all-party event allows for people from diverse backgrounds and political leanings to have the opportunity to experience using firearms in a safe manner, with professional instructors helping everybody with safety measures and tips on how to fire accurately. Mr. Speaker, from the smallest villages to the most urban centres, there are millions of law-abiding firearms owners across Canada. These are people from all walks of life who enjoy finding themselves in nature while hunting or love the excitement of precision target shooting. The rain this morning could not dampen our spirits, and it was evident that those who had their first experience with firearms were quite simply having a blast. I would like to thank the sponsors as well as the Parliamentary Outdoor Caucus for organizing the event. My hope is that the participants' experiences will help them understand that the rights of law-abiding firearms owners and enthusiasts must be respected and should not be attacked for enjoying their way of life. Canadian firearms owners deserve nothing less. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Mr. Speaker, that is a phrase that will be used a great deal over the coming days as the Philippines will be celebrating its Independence Day, a celebration that takes place in every region of our country as the Filipino community heritage has really grown and prospered and done so well into Canada. I know in my home province we will celebrate Philippine independence for a week long of festivities from a ballroom to many fiestas to many other organized celebrations that highlight the many contributions that our Filipino-Canadian community has done over the years. It is a community today that continues to grow like no other, as it is Canada's #1 source in terms of immigrants to our country. It also provides many thousands of workers every year, Mr. Speaker. There is so much wonderful things that we can do to expand that particular relationship. It's with pride that I am the co-chair of the Philippine Friendship Group, and we look forward to a year of full activities.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today with great sadness on behalf of myself and the member for Hamilton Mountain to pay tribute to our good friend Bill Thompson, who passed away suddenly last week. Bill was a well-known figure in the Hamilton community and a beloved member of our Labour and NDP family. A dedicated social justice advocate, Bill fought tirelessly for important issues such as co-op and affordable housing, poverty reduction, economic equality, and the environment. I had the honour to know and work with Bill for more than 40 years as members of the Hamilton District Labour Council executive in the late 70s, as an assistant to Ontario Minister Richard Allen, and through his lifelong dedication to fairness and equality. Mr. Speaker, nobody enjoyed a knockdown, drag-em-out political debate better than Bill, yet his relentless positivity, sense of humour, and deep compassion endeared him to everyone he met. On behalf of our NDP caucus and family, I would like to extend our sincerest condolences to Bill's family and friends. He will be greatly missed. Rest in peace, brother.
The Honourable Member for Ajax.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada and across the world, millions of Muslims are celebrating the holy month of Ramadan. During this time of sacrifice, empathy, and reflection, I want to wish all Ramadan Mubarak. For the third year, I'll be fasting again for Give 30 during the entire month of Ramadan. It's a charity that asks us to take the savings from fasting to give to those who are in need, namely the hungry. You know, Mr. Speaker, fasting's hard. When I walk past food, my body's yearning for it. I want to reach. But the reality is, unfortunately, for countless children in Canada and across the world, there is no food to reach for. When the sun sets, their hunger doesn't. Hunger is not a choice, it is a condition. And the power of Ramadan connects us to that suffering. And Give 30 is a way for us to make a difference. Inshallah, we will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, it's my great honour this past Saturday, June the 3rd, to attend the second annual Celebrating Youth Awards event hosted by hockey legend Bobby Orr at the Hall of Fame that bears his name in Parry Sound. This event recognizes and celebrates the contribution of youth 17 years of age or under in the West Parry Sound area. It is always inspiring, Mr. Speaker, to hear the accomplishments of these local young people. As the Member of Parliament for Parry Sound Muskoka, I have had the great privilege of getting to know my hockey hero, Bobby Orr. While his accomplishments during his career are truly remarkable, what he has given back to his hometown of Parry Sound is even more amazing. Bobby Orr's generosity is only outdone by his great humility. As such, I feel it is important to rise in this House to recognize his tremendous support for youth in my riding and the many other significant contributions he has made to Parry Sound and to all of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise in the House today to recognize Italian Day on the Hill. In my riding of Kingston and the Islands, we have a thriving Italian-Canadian community, and I'm happy to welcome 30 members of the Italo-Canadian Club of Kingston here on the Hill to help celebrate. It's a challenge to move to a new country where you don't know the language, especially when you're only 9 years old. This was the story of my mother, Assunta Garofalo, who moved from Italy to Kingston with her 6 siblings and parents in 1956. In fact, around the time, Mr. Speaker, nearly 1,500 Italians did the same, further enriching the culture of Kingston. They started businesses, worked long hours, and showcased their resilience to make their community amongst the best places to live in Canada. The Italo-Canadian Club of Kingston was formed to celebrate the richness of the Italian culture and has been a staple in my riding for over 50 years, welcoming people from all backgrounds. Today, I am proud to stand in this place and recognize my Italian heritage. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to welcome to Parliament Hill many groups from the happiest city in Canada, Sudbury. They have come to advocate for the projects they believe will continue to make Sudbury a great place to live. Vous savez, Monsieur le Président,
As you know, Mr. Speaker, Sudbury is a microcosm of Canada.
the Anglophone population, 1/3 Francophone, and an important urban Indigenous community. As Canada, Sudbury was built on the backs of hard-working immigrants. We are a city rich with an abundance of minerals, but its greatest asset is its people. Des poètes, des
Poets, visual, musical, and theatrical artists.
innovators who have reshaped the moon-barren landscape with over 15 million trees, restocked our 330 lakes with fish, and created a Nobel Prize-winning science lab 2 kilometers underground. Home to Science North and Dynamic Earth, 2nd and 8th largest science centers in Canada, and home to the iconic Sudbury Wolves hockey team. And without a doubt, it is the mining innovation capital of the world. Je suis fier de souhaiter la bienvenue.
I'm proud to welcome these individuals from Sudbury.
Honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, today marks the 73rd anniversary of D-Day. On June 6, 1944, under heavy fire, Allied forces fought their way ashore in Normandy to begin the liberation of Europe. On this decisive day, Canadian soldiers proved their courage and determination, landing at Juno Beach. 14,000 soldiers from the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division and the 2nd Canadian Armoured Brigade advanced further than any other Allied force. 10,000 sailors of the Royal Canadian Navy on 110 ships took part in the landings, while 15 squadrons of the Royal Canadian Air Force provided cover from the air. The success of the Canadian troops on D-Day and on this anniversary reminds us of Canada's proud military history and of the sacrifices Canadians have made to secure peace, freedom, and justice around the world. 359 Canadians were killed in this historic battle and another 1,074 wounded. Today, we pay tribute to those who served so bravely at Normandy and remember those who did not return home, lest we forget.
The honourable member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, on June 10th, Portuguese Canadians across Canada will be celebrating Portugal Day. Camões and the Portuguese community. This day marks the anniversary of the death of Luís de Camões, the greatest Portuguese poet who captured the essence of Portugal, its history, and its people. It is also the day Portuguese diaspora to celebrate their cultural heritage. In Waterloo Region, the Portuguese community is welcoming and vibrant. I'm so proud the Portuguese Club is in my riding, adding to the cultural mosaic of Kitchener South Hespeler. I also congratulate the Portuguese Club of Cambridge and the Portuguese Oriental Club of Cambridge for their contributions in cultural fabric of Waterloo Region. To all Portuguese Canadians in Kitchener South Hespeler, Feliz Dia de Portugal de Camões, Comunidade Portuguesa.
Honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, June is Pride Month in Toronto. Events will be taking place all month to raise awareness and show solidarity with the LGBTQ2 community, culminating with the Pride Parade. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud that our Prime Minister was the first ever sitting leader to march at Pride and is a party leader with the courage and the conviction to voice unequivocal support for the LGBTQ2 community in Canada. I'm also proud that our government has introduced Bill C-16 to make targeted acts against the trans community a hate crime, and Bill C-32, which makes the age of sexual consent equal for heterosexual and homosexual young couples. But I'm most proud of the residents of my riding of Parkdale High Park, who, despite a climate of rising intolerance, both internationally and here at home, remain steadfast champions in the fight against homophobia and transphobia, constituents that believe, as I do, in equality for all, regardless of how you identify or whom you love. This month, I urge all members to show your pride and your solidarity.
The honourable member for York Simcoe.
Today we pay tribute to the great Sir John A. Macdonald, Canada's founding father, who died on this day in 1891. A true visionary, John A. Macdonald worked with determination and charm to unite our country. The feat was ultimately accomplished through Confederation on July 1st, 1867. The Dominion of Canada was born. Sir John A. spoke often of his immense pride in and gratitude to the Canadian people who entrusted him with the leadership of the Dominion for almost 19 years. Macdonald dedicated his entire life to this fledgling country and its people. Indeed, the old chieftain died while in office, without having had a single day's rest before his death. His loss was overwhelming. Canadians from coast to coast mourned and paid tribute to his devotion, intellect, wit, and patriotism. We stand here today because of this great man and his remarkable legacy. This year, as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of Confederation, let's take a moment and reflect on the achievements of Sir John A. Macdonald, without whom Canada, strong, proud, and free, would not exist today.
Honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Monsieur le Président, le mois de juin.
Mr. Speaker, June is Italian Heritage Month, an opportunity for all Canadians to reflect on everything from Italy and to be thankful for it.
Cultura, l'arte, la moda, and let's not forget gelato. Tonight, MPs from all sides of this House will gather for the second annual Canada-Italy Day on the Hill. We will celebrate the shared values of hard work, sacrifice, and the enduring contributions that Italian Canadians have made to this country's national fabric. On recent travels to Magnifica Italia with the Prime Minister, I was reminded of our two countries' shared values of democracy, social justice, and gender equality. La Comunité Italiana.
The Italian community has played and will continue to play an invaluable role in our country. I'm keen to celebrate June.
Grazie. Mr. Speaker, the verses are strict.
Honourable member for South Okanagan West Kootenay.
On Saturday, we learned of a terror attack in London, and then learned that one of the people killed in that attack was a young woman from Castlegar, British Columbia, Christine Archibald. Like many Canadians, I was deeply moved by the statement that Christine's family released on Sunday, and when I talked to Christine's father later that day, he said the family would be honored if those words were read in this place. So here is their statement. We grieve the loss of our beautiful, loving daughter and sister. She had room in her heart for everyone and believed strongly that every person was to be valued and respected. She lived this belief working in a shelter for the homeless until she moved to Europe to be with her fiancé. She would have had no understanding of the callous cruelty that caused her death. Please honor her by making your community a better place. Volunteer your time and labor, or donate to a homeless shelter, and tell them Chrissy sent you. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, on June 6, 1944, 73 years ago today, some 150,000 American, British, French and Canadian soldiers stormed the Atlantic Wall to liberate Normandy and Europe from the Nazi invader. Of these, 850 French Canadians from the Chaudière Regiment, my regiment, landed on the Bernier-sur-Mer beach under the command of Colonel Paul Mathieu. The only Francophone unit in the Canadian 3rd Infantry Division to have landed on D-Day, they were aggressive, determined, and advanced, pushing the enemy back behind rear lines. Still today, our French cousins remember these combatants from America. It's our duty to remember and to teach new generations of young people about this. More lasting than bronze. The Honourable Member for Orleans. Today marks the 73rd anniversary of the Allied D-Day landings in Normandy.
Before the Nazis had occupied France and much of the continent of Europe for 4 long and brutal years. The historic military victory of D-Day on the beaches of Normandy was a major turning point in the hard-fought war to liberate Europe from a cruel and oppressive regime. Canada's soldiers, sailors, airmen and airwomen were assigned to capture an area now we know as Juno Beach, legendary in our annals. It was there our troops managed to defeat a heavily entrenched German force, but at a terrible price.
Today we commemorate the triumph of our ancestors, as well as pay tribute to those individuals who paid the ultimate price to make this achievement possible.
The soldiers, those who did not come home, those who were injured, and their families, a debt we can never repay. There is a price for freedom. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, today is the anniversary of D-Day in Normandy. Thousands of Canadian soldiers invaded Juno Beach, and many of them never came home. But today, in the 21st century, the enemy has new methods and new messages. And I'm talking about ISIL. What is the Prime Minister doing to truly protect Canadians against this menace, apart from some empty rhetoric on a U.S. talk show? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're still proud of the men and women in the Canadian forces who serve here in Canada and abroad to defend our values, who are doing today what they did decades ago. It's our duty to give those soldiers all the equipment and support they need, the tools they need, and support when they come home so that they can continue defending our values with such courage and bravery here and abroad. We will continue to work to be worthy of their services every day. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister articulated his sophisticated thoughts on the threats of global terrorism. He told Americans that it was super important to invest in investigative national security stuff. He then described the impact of violent acts of terror, saying Canadians are able to respond to, quote, bad things happening without, quote, falling into a bad space. After abandoning the fight against ISIS and cutting our armed forces, can the Prime Minister tell Canadians what kind of stuff he's investing in and how he plans on keeping those positive vibes coming to keep us out of a bad space?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I'm glad the Leader of the Opposition's new duties haven't kept him from his daytime TV watching. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, we take very, very seriously the importance of both protecting Canadians' rights and defending our safety at the same time. We committed to Canadians in the last election campaign that we would get that balance right, that we would make sure that always we are defending Canadians' rights and protecting our communities at the same time. That's what Canadians expect. That's what we will do.
Order, order. I realize that all members are in a party mood, I hope, but let's make sure we listen to the questions and the answers. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, after a week of avoiding me, that was the only place I could find him.
The finance minister appeared proud yesterday to say that his government had increased taxes, but Canadians don't find it funny that Liberals are raising taxes on beer and wine. Not only are they taking money out of the pockets of Canadians, but it's going to cost people all across the country. When will this Prime Minister stop, or the Finance Minister stop trying to find new ways to tax Canadians more heavily? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're proud of the fact that we lowered taxes for the middle class. We increased taxes for the wealthiest 1%. It's disappointing to see, Mr. Speaker, that the party opposite chose to vote against the idea of raising taxes on the wealthiest and lowering them on the middle class. We will always look for ways to create more opportunities for the middle class, to create growth, economic growth that will help the middle class and those working hard to join it.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just keeps repeating things that aren't true. They aren't cutting taxes on the middle class, they're raising them. Higher payroll taxes, higher taxes on beer and wine, bus passes, Uber, the carbon tax. But he keeps trying to convince Canadians otherwise. I guess he's taking a cue from the old George Costanza philosophy that it's not a lie if you believe it. Can the Prime Minister explain why he has an economic policy about nothing except hurting the people he claims to help?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the last election campaign was fought on two very different visions of the economic growth this country needed. The previous Conservative government had spent its time on boutique tax credits and advantages for the wealthiest 1%, where we knew that Canadians needed real growth that would support the middle class, needed investments in infrastructure that were long overdue, needed the kind of support for a forward-thinking economic and environmental vision that went together. These are the things Canadians asked for. They asked for real change. That's exactly what they got.
Of the opposition.
Order. Mr. Speaker, parents work tirelessly to provide a safe and secure life for their children. They pick neighborhoods and schools based on what's best for their kids, and they are always focused on keeping them safe. Every parent deserves to know if a high-risk offender is living next door. So when the Liberals suggest that it's a better idea to defend these high-risk sex offenders than to help parents keep watch over their kids, he is putting the rights of dangerous criminals ahead of the safety of Canadian families. When will the Prime Minister show some compassion for victims and their families instead of repeat dangerous offenders?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what hasn't changed is the Conservative propensity to politicize things that really shouldn't be politicized. We take the safety of our communities, of our children, extraordinarily seriously, and that anyone would suggest that any parent or any person in this House would not take the safety of their children seriously is, quite frankly, shameful, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to government nominations, the Prime Minister now pretends that he's partisan blind. He doesn't know what that means. So let me describe what partisanship looks like. It's when you donate to a politician's campaign and then get appointed by that politician to high office. It's when you get special access to the PM's top advisors, just friends, of course, when no one else gets that benefit. Madeleine Meilleur confirmed again yesterday that the position of Commissioner did indeed come up in discussions with Jerry Butts and Katie Telford, but the Minister has denied this in the House. So can the Prime Minister please tell us which one is lying?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we put in place an independent nominations process that works on merit, that looks at who's going to be the right persons for the job. We know that Canadians deserve appointments across government that reflects the full diversity of our country, and that's what we've stayed focused on. We look at merit-based appointments, and we're moving forward in a way that keeps the Canadians' trust.
It's colleagues, it's very quiet during the questions. I'm sure it can be equally quiet during the answers. So Member for Outremont.
Canadians would trust them more if he would answer a simple question like which one of them was lying.
Allow me to quote the Minister word for word. Ms. Telford and Mr. Butts never discussed with Ms. Meilleur the subject of becoming Official Languages Commissioner. This discussion never took place. But twice in Parliamentary Committee and again in the Senate yesterday, Ms. Meilleur clearly confirmed that she had discussed the Commissioner position with Mr. Butts and Ms. Telford. The Prime Minister's the one who's responsible for this appointment. So given this blatant contradiction, will he finally withdraw Ms. Meilleur's name? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect us to select highly qualified individuals for these positions. That's why we set up a selection process that's open and merit-based. It reflects the diversity of Canada. All Canadians could apply for these types of positions. We're proud of the process we've set up. We're proud of the process that led to the appointment, such a positive appointment. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Highly liberal, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister of Canada has a duty to seriously and calmly consider recommendations from all provinces. But instead of considering Quebec's suggestion, which was to start a conversation, the Prime Minister impulsively and irresponsibly slammed the door on Quebecers' noses, in their face. Doesn't look much like a party and a PM who represent, let alone respect, Quebec. How can the Prime Minister refuse a request for a conversation without even having listened? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the member knows full well what my position is on the Constitution. We discussed that amply during the election debates in 2015. All Canadians know I was elected to defend growth for the middle class, to help Canadians with their concrete issues, and not to get into the black hole of constitutional debate, endless debate. That's what the NDP offered in the last election, but we offered growth for the middle class and real change.
Quelle arrogance.
What arrogance. If it had been Newfoundland or Nova Scotia that wanted to talk about fisheries, or BC that wanted to talk about Indigenous peoples in Canada, would he have slammed the door in their face? No. His disdain is for Quebec and Quebec alone. How can this Prime Minister slam the door in Quebec's face without even having read the document in question? Is that supposed to be respect for Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, everyone in this House knows full well that I say the same things in French as I say in English. I always take the same approach, which is to deliver what Canadians need. I address their concerns rather than reopening the Constitution and getting involved in an endless quagmire. That's been my position. It will remain so. I've made that commitment to Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, last night in another place, Madeleine Meilleur claimed that while she was serving as Ontario's Attorney General, she acted in an impartial fashion. But at the same time she was Attorney General, she was also headlining cash for access events for the Ontario Liberals. Given her track record, are we really expected to believe that she will be an impartial officer of this place? Why does the Prime Minister not simply admit that this appointment is what it is? It's a Liberal reward for a Liberal partisan.
Mr. Speaker, our two official languages are at the heart of who we are as Canadians and is a priority for our government. Ms. Mayor has been a fierce advocate for official languages over the course of her career and has sought to protect the vitality of our official languages communities. She will continue to be an important watchdog for the Official Languages Act. We are certain that she will fulfill her duties with all of the experience and impartiality required.
The honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Well, Mr. Speaker, not even the Liberals are believing these answers. Last night, a Liberal senator questioned Madeleine Meilleur's ability to act independently from the Liberal government. He suggested that not enough time had passed to develop the neutrality and the distance needed. Mr. Speaker, if Madeleine Meilleur can't even convince longtime Liberals that she's independent, how can Canadians believe that she will be independent of this Liberal government?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we're committed to finding the most qualified candidates for each position. We also believe that taking part in public life should not exclude you from serving Canadians in a new capacity. Once again, it's the qualifications that matter. In fact, we appointed Kim Campbell to lead the Supreme Court of Canada Advisory Board. Like Kim Campbell, we firmly believe that Madeleine Meilleur will be able to serve Canadians with all of the accountability, impartiality and rigour required.
The honourable member for Beauport-Charlevoix. The Heritage Minister continues to claim that Madeleine Meilleur never discussed the Official Languages Commissioner position with Gerald Butts and Katie Telford. But in the Committee of the Whole in the other place yesterday, Ms. Meilleur again confirmed the opposite and confirmed that they spoke to her about the process. It's patently obvious this appointment was in the bag long before the so-called highly suspect rigorous process even began. When is the government going to apologize for repeatedly misleading this House and restart the process? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the importance of the Official Languages Commissioner, and we undertook to find the best possible candidate for the position after a long, open and merit-based process. Ms. Meilleur clearly stood out as the most qualified individual for the position. As for my colleague's allegations, I'd like to make it clear that at no time did the topic of the position at no time was it discussed. It has been said repeatedly that this process was rigorous and it was followed. The honourable member for Beauport-Charlevoix. What a joke. The more Ms. Meilleur talks, the more she digs herself and the government in deeper. She badly wants the position, but she doesn't understand that there are two official languages in Canada. Yesterday, when she was asked what she would do for Anglophone minorities, she gave examples from Francophone communities. She has no idea about the needs of English-speaking minorities in Quebec. So it's hardly surprising that she's the self-proclaimed Commissioner of the French language. When will this circus come to an end? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we committed to finding the best possible individual for this position, and that's precisely what we did. After a long, open, merit-based process with 72 candidates, the selection committee and multiple tests, Ms. Meilleur clearly emerged as the candidate with the best experience and impartiality. We're convinced that Ms. Meilleur will be able to fulfill her role with all the necessary experience and expertise for this important position.
Let's recap where we're at. Less than a year ago, Madeleine Meilleur left politics to spend time with her family. She was a cabinet minister under popular Premier Dalton McGuinty and the even more popular Kathleen Wynne. She donated thousands to the federal Liberals during the last election campaign. She also donated to the Prime Minister's leadership campaign. Then she wanted to be a senator, but was told she's too partisan, so she applied for the nonpartisan position of Official Languages Commissioner. Will the Prime Minister just admit that he's filling a nonpartisan position with a Liberal Party donor and fundraiser?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, we're committed to finding the most qualified candidates for each position. And we believe that taking part in public life should not exclude you from serving Canadians in a new capacity. It's the qualifications that matter, Mr. Speaker. In fact, as the honourable member knows, we appointed Kim Campbell, to lead the Supreme Court of Canada Advisory Board, and like Kim Campbell, we firmly believe that Madeleine Mayer will be able to serve Canadians with all of the accountability, impartiality and rigour required.
The member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this group of Liberals is acting just like we thought they would. They've managed to divide Acadian, Francophone and minority English communities with this pick, and yesterday we learned a group that defends the rights of Acadians is seeking a judicial review. They just don't get it. It's not about Mayer's qualifications. It's whether anyone believes that she can be an independent officer of Parliament. It's about that. Now, why can't the Prime Minister just admit that he and his backroom operatives have caused the integrity of the selection process to be called into question, and they have no choice now but to do it over again?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our two official languages are at the heart of who we are as Canadians, and they're a priority for our government. The experience, the expertise and the integrity of Ms. Mayer has been recognized by many, both in this House and in the official languages community across Canada. We're certain that Ms. Mayer will fulfill her duties with all the experience and impartiality required for this position. In fact, last week, Mr. Speaker, the Francophone community called on this House to end the political games and to support this nomination.
For North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Infrastructure Bank reminds me of a Tommy Douglas story about a place where mice were governed by cats. The cats passed laws that, for example, limited the speed mice could run so they'd be easier to catch. They were good laws for cats. This infrastructure bank was created by corporations for corporations, and it ensures that Canadians will be stuck with the bill. It's a good bank for corporations. Why are the Liberals less interested in helping working Canadians and more interested in helping corporate fat cats?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, we have put forward a very ambitious agenda to help build and rebuild Canadian infrastructure with tripling of our investments compared to the previous Harper government. Our goal is to even go further. We believe that by mobilizing pension funds, institutional investors, we can help build infrastructure that otherwise may never get built or may take decades to build. That will help us grow our economy, create jobs for the middle class, and also make a gap in the infrastructure deficit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
Sur la banque de privatisation des
We already know the infrastructure privatization bank is going to result in polls and user fees. We know this because that's what always happens. Just look at Australia. Their competition commissioner, Rod Sims, a great advocate of privatization, has had a change of heart and thinks it's a failure. Companies are motivated by maximizing profits rather than making efficiency gains, he says. Let's just stop the privatizations. It's increasing prices. Let's call it out. Instead of listening to BlackRock and their Bay Street buddies, could the Liberals wake up and smell the coffee? The Honourable Parliamentary Minister.
When it comes to building infrastructure, the member of the opposition, including the NDP, really lacked commitment. That was quite evident in the last election, right? And we put forward a very ambitious agenda because we understand that Canadian communities need to build more affordable housing. They need to build more public transit to reduce congestion. They need more recreational cultural infrastructure to build healthy communities. And that's exactly what we're focused on. And we believe that by mobilizing private capital, institutional investors, pension funds, we can do more for our communities.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've been hearing reports from New Brunswick about a legal crisis in their family court system. And it's all because of the judicial delays in the court system, because Liberals have not even put together a committee to advise them on judicial appointments in New Brunswick. Mr. Speaker, because of this, families who are desperate for relief are getting none, and Canadians are further losing confidence in our criminal justice system. What is the problem with the Liberals? Why don't they get on with making these judicial appointments?
Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I am committed to ensuring that Canadians maintain their confidence in the criminal justice system. We are taking many measures to ensure that that confidence is upheld, including putting in place an open and transparent judicial appointment process, reconstituting the judicial advisory committees. I look forward to continuing to add to the 67 judicial appointments I've made across the country in the superior courts. I look forward to constituting the remaining judicial advisory committees and making further judicial appointments in the very near future.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have not even appointed a committee to advise them on judicial appointments. Now, I know this is very difficult for the Liberals, and so let me make this suggestion. If they're unable to do this, why don't they put us and the NDP in charge of putting it together a committee, and we'll make recommendations to the minister. Get the job done.
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am very confident in the process that we put in place for judicial appointments and to constituting the judicial advisory committees. I have appointed 67 substantive meritorious judicial appointments across the country. I look forward to continuing to make more appointments to fill the outstanding vacancies and ensure the honourable member across the aisle that we will be constituting the remaining judicial advisory committees.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, not only are they slow appointing judges, we're also alarmed to learn that the Liberal government wants to deprive our police of a crucial tool for keeping tabs on sex offenders, the public registry of high-risk sex offenders. Canadians have a right to know if their neighbour is a sex offender known to authorities. Can the Minister of Public Safety confirm to this House that victims should be put first ahead of high-risk sex offenders?
Mr. Speaker, public safety is, of course, always our constant priority. The innuendo that's buried in that question is simply utterly false. When a potentially dangerous offender is about to be released from prison, the Correctional Service of Canada alerts the local police. And if there's a danger, the police then alert the public. The National Sex Offender Registry is a key tool for ensuring that offenders are properly registered and that high-risk offenders are identified.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, the government is considering shutting down a publicly accessible registry for high-risk sex offenders. High-risk sex offenders are the worst of the worst and pose the greatest risk to our children. Every parent has a right to know if one of these predators is moving into their neighbourhood, and shutting down this registry would be nothing short of outrageous. Why would the government be making it more difficult for parents to keep their kids safe by shutting down this registry?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, that appears to be an odd position for a member of that party to take, since they failed to put one nickel in the budget to support this initiative. Mr. Speaker, public safety is our priority. The innuendo in that question is utterly false. When a potentially dangerous offender is about to be released from prison, the Correctional Service of Canada alerts the local police, and the police make sure that the public is identified if there is any danger. That's the system that's in place, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Vancouver East.
The Refugee Society in BC is the only group that provides support to inland asylum seekers upon arrival. The caseload has increased by 300%, and even CBSA directs asylum seekers to them, but they get zero support from the federal government. Without federal support, the organization will have to close its doors later this year. Instead of taking action, the minister has decided to ignore this dire situation. Will the government step up to the plate, or will they continue to abandon these NGOs who are struggling to stay afloat?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of our government's record in welcoming those who flee war, persecution and terrorism. Our government is committed to a robust, fair and compassionate asylum system, and that includes not only adequately funding the IRB, but also organizations that help refugees day in and day out.
The honourable member for Laurier Ste. Marie. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow, Setsuko Turlo, a survivor of Hiroshima, will be here to address parliamentarians. In 2010, the Liberals supported a motion calling on Canada to work to promote nuclear disarmament. And in 2016, members of the Liberal Party passed a resolution calling on the government to launch a process to ban nuclear weapons. And, well, right now, the UN is working on a convention to ban nuclear weapons, but Canada's not at the table. Why? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, our goal is nuclear disarmament, and we are taking the necessary measures to reach that goal. That means working to deliver something that is tangible. In 2016, for the first time, Canada brought together a large number of countries to pass a resolution for the Fissile Matter Treaty. This is a concrete measure that we have taken.
Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, as the Member of Parliament for Surrey Centre, I've firsthand seen how important and highly skilled newcomers are to Canada's economy. Like many communities across Canada, Surrey is attracting more former international students, experienced professionals, and skilled newcomers who will help meet Canada's labour market needs, contribute to economic growth, and drive innovation. Will the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship please update this House on the recent changes to the express entry system that will help support integration of newcomers and grow our economy?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Surrey Centre for that important question. Starting today, all applicants under the express entry system who have siblings in Canada will receive additional points, and applicants who also have high and strong French language skills will also receive additional points. We value family reunification, which is why we understand that when newcomers have siblings in Canada, it leads to better integration outcomes. We also are unwavering in our commitment to the vitality and the vibrancy of Francophone communities outside Quebec, which is why we want to attract.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' anti-energy agenda is obvious. Their carbon tax undermines Canada's competitiveness and makes everything more expensive for everyone. The Liberals delayed LNG and pipeline projects, putting both at risk, added costs and red tape to oil and gas, and the PM wants to phase out the oil sands. It's political. They say one thing in BC and something different in Alberta. Right. And now, a long-time anti-energy activist is the new Chief of Staff to the Natural Resources Minister. When will the Liberals finally champion Canadian energy, Canadian innovation, and Canadian jobs?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reject the premise of the question. Our support for the energy sector reflects a balanced approach that ensures the environment is protected and creates good, well-paying jobs for Canadians. After 10 years of inaction by the Harper Conservatives, we approved pipelines while at the same time protecting our oceans, pricing carbon pollution, and working with Indigenous peoples. Our approach will create tens of thousands of good-paying middle-class jobs for Canadians and position Canada's energy sector well to capitalize on opportunities going forward. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. It's not credible, Mr. Speaker. This government is not credible. How is it acceptable that the Chief of Staff to the Natural Resources Minister, before taking the job, never missed an opportunity to speak out against the oil and gas sector? It's naive to think that she can be a good advisor. If she has to choose between two projects that both meet environmental standards, do you really think that she'll be able to choose the oil and gas project? Workers in this sector have the right to work. Does the minister want to shut down the oil patch and put thousands of Canadians out of work? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to ask the member's office if they indeed will be supporting the Paris climate motion that is coming forward. By approving pipelines, our government took a step forward in supporting thousands of good-paying middle-class jobs. Unlike the previous 10 years of the Harper Conservatives, who failed to take any real action over the past decade, we are protecting our oceans, putting a price on carbon pollution, all the while finding new markets for our resources. We have said many times the choice between climate action and pipeline approval is a false one. Our government is committed to a balanced approach that can do both.
The honourable member for Banff-Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, with regards to the small business tax rate, would the Revenue Minister agree that due to the seasonal nature of the camping industry, it would not make sense for these businesses to have 5 year-round employees? Therefore, they are subject to a higher tax rate. Because of this financial burden, many campground owners are struggling to keep their businesses. And also that consideration should be given to the fact that owners of campgrounds are in most instances full-time employees, no different than full-time self-employed in other small businesses. Would the Minister agree?
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring that all Canadians pay their fair share of taxes. Concerning the tax rate for small and medium-sized businesses, I would like to note that we have not changed the tax rules, Mr. Speaker. They are the same rules that existed and which continue to apply. Thank you.
The honourable member for Banff-Airdrie.
Notwithstanding the fact that was totally inaccurate, I also find it quite curious that the Minister of Revenue doesn't feel fit to agree with those statements, because they were made by her Liberal colleagues, the member from Sackville-Preston and the Minister of Fisheries, in letters that were written to her. So I ask the Minister of Fisheries, does he still stand by the letter that he wrote to the Minister of Revenue in June of 2016? Does he still believe that, I quote, the tax treatment of campgrounds should be reviewed taking into account their specific circumstances with regards to the small business tax rate? And does he still suggest a moratorium on assessments while a review is undertaken?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, we continue to support small and medium-sized businesses across the country. I would like to remind my colleague from across the way, Mr. Speaker, that when his party was in power, consultations with partners in this sector took place, and they maintained the same position. The rules have not changed, Mr. Speaker.
For Port Moody, Coquitlam.
First, the Liberals shut down the Coast Guard's rescue dive team. Then they announced the cancellation of the Salmon in the Classroom education program, both within a week. This specialized dive team based on BC's Sea Island is the only of its kind that rescues people trapped in submerged vessels. And the Salmon in the Classroom education program has taught hundreds of thousands of students about the importance of the salmon life cycle. British Columbians are outraged. So why hasn't the minister heard their concerns, and when will he reverse these cuts?
Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, we heard the concerns of British Columbians and all Canadians when we decided as a government to invest massively in an oceans protection plan. It's good to protect marine ecosystems. It improves search and rescue capacity on all of Canada's coasts, particularly in British Columbia. I was proud to be there, Mr. Speaker, last week to announce 4 new lifeboat rescue stations on the coast of British Columbia. We'll continue to protect fish habitat and work with the volunteer groups in that province and all across the country that do such outstanding work.
The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, nearly half of Canadians denied access to CPP disability benefits are successfully appealing the rulings. 2/3 of those who took their appeal to the Social Security Tribunal win. Clearly, this proves the process we have in place is seriously flawed. These claims for benefits aren't just numbers. They're real people who need these benefits in order to live and strive. Why are so many claims denied in the first place? Will the minister address this urgent matter immediately?
Honourable Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities.
Mr. Speaker, both the Minister of Social Development and I agree that this is unacceptable. That's why we're taking steps to fix it. The Minister of Social Development has called for a comprehensive review of CPP disability to ensure that it's more responsive to the needs of Canadians with severe and prolonged disabilities. Actions have already been taken to date, including simplifying the appeal process, creating a working group, contacting citizens proactively, and revising the operations and processes to make them fair and efficient. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, after 18 months of erratic foreign policy missteps, Canadians may be relieved the Liberals have finally accepted the need to hit the reset button. But after a stroll through history through a myopic Liberal lens today, where's the detail, for example, on whether the Liberal retreat from the Allied coalition in Syria and Iraq will be reversed, whether the Liberals will be less submissive with China on trade and human rights, whether the Liberals will be less secretive about votes for human rights abusers at the United Nations?
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure Brian Mulroney would agree that a reference to his work on the Acid Rain Treaty was a myopic Liberal stroll, unless the member opposite has information that Prime Minister Mulroney is joining our side of the House. When it comes to Daesh and Iraq, our government is absolutely resolute. We have committed $1.6 billion to the effort there. We are proud of the work we are doing.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when Canadians are illegally detained and abused by countries like Iran and China, the Liberals cite privacy as a reason to remain silent. When Canadians are eventually released, if they survive, like the Garretts from China or Professor Hudfar from Iran, the Liberals have been similarly mute. When will the Liberals reset this unacceptable foreign policy and condemn publicly on behalf of all Canadians the past and present abuse of Canadians in China and Iran?
The Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, let me be absolutely clear. We condemn in absolute terms the human rights abuses of Canadians and all people anywhere in the world. When it comes to consular cases, as the member opposite knows, having been in government himself, these are among the most personally difficult and challenging cases any government can face. It is often important to do this work in private in order to secure our ultimate goal, which is not a partisan win, it is getting Canadians home.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Foreign Affairs Minister promised us a major statement on foreign policy, but, well, that's not what we heard today. And all this was done without consultation. The minister said nothing about reversing the decision to turn our backs on our allies fighting ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Nothing about how they're going to stand up to China on trade and human rights. Mr. Speaker, when will this government finally take off its rose-colored glasses, recognize that we live in a complex world, and base its foreign policy in reality? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, as I said this morning, I understand very well that the world is complex, and I also understand very well that there are some hard and difficult realities to face. What I said this morning, I will repeat. That is that Canada must work for a world with multilateral institutions, with rules, and with Canadian values. And that is what we are doing. That is what we are going to do. Thank you.
South Shore, St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, abandoned and derelict vessels have a tremendous impact on communities in my riding of South Shore, St. Margaret's, and for many coastal communities all across Canada. Our government demonstrated that a clean environment and a strong economy can and have to go hand in hand, and we recognize the importance of supporting healthy coastal marine ecosystems. Can the Parliamentary Secretary please inform my constituents and all Canadians on the recent positive developments on this important issue?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd also like to thank the member for South Shore St. Margaret's for her question and for her advocacy on this file. Last week, our government was proud to announce the new Abandoned Boats program as part of our Oceans Protections Plan. With this new funding, we'll assist in the removal and disposal of high-priority abandoned and wrecked small boats posing a hazard in Canadian waters, sometimes interfering with safe navigation. This is yet another clear step in our commitment to further protect and preserve our country's pristine coastlines.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, a closer look at C-49 reveals that the Liberals are trying to sell shippers a weaker version of the Fair Rail for Grain Farmers Act. Adding insult to injury, the pro-shipper measures contained in C-30 will sunset on August 1st. As a result of this minister's delay tactics, farmers will be forced to negotiate next year's contracts without the benefit of a law. This omnibus bill is too late for Western shippers. Will the minister now separate the rail shipping measures for expedited scrutiny?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
To thank the honourable member for her questions, all Canadians would benefit from a competitive and reliable freight rail system. And that's why our government has introduced this legislation to support transparent, fair, efficient, safe, national rail system that will meet the long-term needs of users and facilitate trade and economic growth for years. We are putting our efforts towards building a comprehensive and permanent solution, not another Band-Aid. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to defend the rights of the citizens of Saint-Hubert who hoped that this summer things would quiet down a bit at the Saint-Hubert airport. Because the community can be proud of successfully negotiating a satisfactory agreement with all local stakeholders, but it's disappointing to see that so far in June, Transport Canada still hasn't issued the necessary flight restriction times. Can the Minister commit that Transport Canada will cooperate, please, with local citizens and put new flight time restrictions in place so that the peace negotiated can be enjoyed this summer? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what we are trying to do is build infrastructure in this country to allow economic growth, opportunity, jobs for middle-class Canadians. This needs to be done in a balanced way that takes the needs of all Canadians into account, and that's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, young people in my riding of Châteauguay-Lacolle have told me that our government's work to reduce barriers in the labour market has helped many of them get their first job. Thanks to programs like Canada Summer Jobs, many of them now have their first professional experience. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Youth please update this House on other measures taken by our government to help young Canadians start their professional lives? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honourable Member for her question and for her very hard work on this issue in her riding of Châteauguay-Lacolle. For our government, investing in young people is a priority. In our first two budgets, we invested to grow the economy and offer job opportunities for young Canadians, and we established a working group on youth employment. Last week, the Minister of Employment received the final report from the working group, and our government is currently reviewing that report to look at how we can follow through on its recommendations. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, we've learned that the government of Quebec called Ottawa to ask that it delay the implementation of legalized marijuana, and Ottawa said no. This government doesn't listen to anyone, the provinces, not Canadians, not experts, not parliamentarians, and not municipalities. No one. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are making it up as they go along on this file, and they're passing all their problems off on to the provinces and municipalities. Will this government at least have the decency to listen to people and treat them as true partners? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to legalizing cannabis, strictly regulating and restricting access to cannabis in order to keep it out of the hands of children and the proceeds out of the hands of criminals. We have undertaken substantive consultation, put together a substantive task force that provided a myriad of recommendations which informed our bill C-45 in terms of the Cannabis Act. We're going to continue to work diligently with the provinces and the territories to ensure that we have a comprehensive regime in place across the country.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, after 2 years in power, this government is really in its second-year slump. Or it's in the terrible twos, as we say. The Prime Minister just has one word in his mouth, and that's no. Maintaining the augmentation in health transfers? No. Giving more time to Quebec to prepare for the legalization of pot? No. Talking about the Constitution? Oh, absolutely not. No. But when will this government start to respect Quebec? It's really time that Quebecers say yes once and for all. The Honourable Minister of Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member, an MP representing Quebec and a member of the government, I'm very happy to be part of a government that is working to grow our economy, to grow the middle class, and to ensure that our environment meets the needs of Canadians, and that we do everything while respecting provincial jurisdictions, including the specific areas that the Government of Quebec is responsible for. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A lot of words, but it's still no, no, no. Today, the 40 Quebec Liberal MPs have a choice. Either vote for an infrastructure bank that will allow rich investors to ignore Quebec's laws, as well as municipal bylaws. That means no BAP, no agricultural zoning, but they have the power to expropriate. Or, Mr. Speaker, they can vote to ensure that Quebecers are respected. Vote to ensure that the National Assembly is respected. So who's going to vote today on the infrastructure bank? 40 Quebec MPs or 40 invisible MPs who don't respect Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, as I have stated in this House many times, that infrastructure bank and any project undertaken by the infrastructure bank will be required to follow all provincial, territorial and municipal laws. We respect the local jurisdiction, and we will make sure that in order to grow our economy, we will continue to work with provinces, including very strong relationship with the province of Quebec and all the MPs working in the House advocating on behalf of the province. We will continue to invest in infrastructure to grow our economy, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie is rising on a point of order, rising out of question period.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, during question period, I arose to ask a question of the Minister of Fisheries in regards to a letter that he and another Liberal member of Parliament had written to the Minister of Revenue. However, I noticed the Minister of Revenue actually got up and responded to the question with sort of the same old talking points that we've heard over and over, which are completely untrue. So I would like to just give the Minister of Fisheries an opportunity to refresh his memory by asking for unanimous consent to table the documents, the letters that were written to the Minister of Revenue.
Is there unanimous consent? Apparently there's no unanimous consent. The Honourable Member for Durham is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On May 31st, I rose in this House on a point of order asking you to make a prima facie finding of contempt on the Minister of Heritage with respect to her evidentiary record, her testimony before this chamber. At the time, I mentioned that the member for Chilliwack Hope entered into the record here the testimony of Madame Mayer, which conflicted directly with the minister's comments. Today, I would ask you to also enter into your reflection on my point of order the evidence provided today by the Member of Parliament for Outremont, which confirms a second time that Madame Mayer direct testimony to a committee, a standing committee of Parliament, and to the Senate conflicts with the minister's comments in this House. So as you're considering my request for a prima facie finding of contempt,